guys, so today I'm going to share with you my force feedback settings for the direct drive Fanatec DD1 with the Formula V2 steering wheel. This is the limited edition carbon fiber Formula 1 Formula steering wheel. Any direct drive, these settings should be more or less in the ballpark, so you will get the kind of feeling that I was getting while I was driving. My pedals are the Fanatec Club Sport V3 with the brake performance kit elastometers. So these settings were the settings that got me to get my quickest lap times and to actually be consistent, fast and competitive and win some online races, get some podium finish. So the ABS setting is outside the force feedback, but it's a little extra. So ABS works really well here. It's kind of like a GT3 car ABS. It's a very nice system because you don't lose lap time, you don't really lose anything. Usually you don't want any assist, you want to have manual control, but this ABS is like the ABS on board the real-life GT3 cars. It won't penalize you too much. Gameplay HUD, this could be another thing that I could share with you, which is the field of view. I use this ruler to actually take some measurements regarding the screen and the distance. As you can see, my screen is very close to me, so I can have a little bit bigger field of view for the single screen setup that I have. On the audio, I like to have the tires louder than everything else because that helps me listening to what the car is doing. And on the display, it's down to whatever computer you have. So for the force feedback, there are quite a few things that I noticed that made the force feedback feel very sluggish and felt very not intuitive to drive. Everything felt muted and just felt heavy, unnecessarily heavy for no reason. So steering sensitivity is one of those settings where if you don't have this maxed out, the inputs don't work one-to-one. You actually do the input like this and there is a huge delay when this setting is out of the box, so you need to max out this setting. This was the first thing that I touched as soon as I tried to drive. Steering linearity could be a little bit challenging because you should have this in the middle, that will make everything one-to-one, but sometimes I want a little bit more stability in the center, and especially under braking or when people are bumping into me, I want to feel some force feedback, but I don't want the input from the wheel to actually destabilize the car. So this will actually make the inputs in the center less pronounced, less crazy, but at the same time will make me, when trying to reach full lock easier if I want to suddenly turn more. So it's a small thing. Now the more important things are, the vibration is down to personal preference, but the scale is more important because I noticed that you can actually, this is just a number, 100 doesn't mean that it is 100%, and if your force feedback is far from clipping, it's far from reaching actually the maxed out output that you could have with the percentage that you have on your base, then you could just increase this value. There is no need to keep this value down. So you have to do whatever it takes to maximize the resolution of detail that you get in the force feedback. And for me, if you need to put this up a little bit more, you can use that if you have the Newton meters for that. Steering self-alignment, I actually increased this value a little bit from standard as well. This is a value that I think it's like good for drifters and people that want to feel a lot of the seat of the pants, because this gives the feeling of the rear end of the car. I think it also helps a little bit pulling the wheel to the center, self-alignment of course, but I noticed increasing this, I felt way better when the rear end was stepping out, and for me that was very important. To get to drive cars that have loose setups, you want the loose force feedback that gives you the seat of the pants effect. And instead of having a force feedback that's too realistic, you want to try to feel the G-forces through the wheel. So mechanical throttle, it's quite the opposite. This will be controversial. Leave your ideas in the comments down below about this, but for me, this setting, when I was increasing it, okay, the steering felt more even and it felt more natural, but everything on the force feedback felt sluggish, and I felt like I was losing details. The force feedback felt like it was missing some things, and sometimes it felt like that stability that I was having, it was too stable, and if I needed to correct fast, I didn't get that information fast enough. So for me, lower made the force feedback feel more natural and closer to what I have in all my other more hardcore sims, where I like to drive with a very loose force feedback, no dampening, as you can see, no wheel damper, nothing like that, just raw force feedback, all the physical information from the physics model from the car into the direct drive. So that's why the pneumatic scale is again a little bit on the higher side. I want to feel the bite point, and I want to feel when I'm braking traction. I think I might have this a bit too high, sometimes I'm not sure, because there is a very strong drop-off point. It feels like driving sometimes even a little bit in the rain or with cold tires in Assetto Corsa or Automobilista 1 or 2 or some other sims, where sometimes when you suddenly lose all the grip in the front, the wheel really loses all its power. So maybe this is a bit too high, but I was able to get quick with this, and so these are my current settings for my fastest lap times. Road feel is down to personal preference, of course. It's about bumps, curbs. Some people like to have very strong details on those settings. I've seen people that, depending on what wheel they are using, they will have insane curb feeling, and I know that it can be more realistic because sometimes you feel very well when you are going through certain parts on certain tracks, but still, in my opinion, this doesn't really help us drive that much better. Maybe you want a little bit of this, but not too much. And I actually sometimes like to have it a bit pronounced. I think I'm okay because I'm not feeling it way too much, but it's there, it's noticeable. So load sensitivity, this one is also trying to figure out, I'm trying to figure this one out, but it seems to be something related with the weight that you put onto the tires through the G-forces. So sometimes when we are going through a corner at high speed and you are really leaning on the tires, or if you are turning a lot pretty quickly on a more lower speed corner or a very tight corner, this seems to give the resistance from the tires. This is something interesting. I tried lowering it a bit and the steering wheel started to feel always very, very weak and always very light. So this is like when you feel weight from the steering wheel, but not from any dampening effect, not from any self-centering effect. You're feeling the car, the tires actually biting onto the tarmac. That's the thing. That's why here I don't have any wheel dampening. I also don't have much center spring scale, maybe a little bit to stabilize some of the forces. I'm still figuring this one out, but not much. So dynamic damper is one of those settings where if you have a lot of dynamic dampening, you're not adding dampening, you're actually removing. This is like a filter that when you have one overwhelming force that will muddy up other small forces, that force, that tapping force gets weaker so that you can feel all the other little details. So this can be more useful in higher settings to lower powered direct drives or maybe to lower powered wheelbases. But if you have maybe more than 15 Newton meters of torque, there is no need for much dynamic damper, because then you can just increase the power on the steering wheel and you get a bigger range of force feedback. Your graphic, imagine that your graphic is growing now, and because your graphic is growing, now you have more nuanced force feedback that you can get. And this is it. These are the settings. I hope you guys find some information useful on this video, and I know that my settings can be very controversial, so feel free to discuss that in the comments and to leave your thoughts and suggestions, or correct me if I said anything wrong. At the same time, I want to thank you for watching my videos. If you want, you can check out the channel, leave your like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe to the channel for more content. Thank you very much, have a nice day, and see you on the racetrack.